Frank Salvoni, Director of Sun Valley Youth Hockey. Appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me today. Give me a little background on where'd you grow up and how'd you find your way to Sun Valley?
I grew up outside of Boston. Went to a prep school in Connecticut. From there, I went to Lake Forest College. Had a really awesome hockey career. Retired. Didn't think I was ever going to play hockey again. And came to visit a dear friend of mine's sister, Wendy Hall at the time. Now her name is Wendy Speth. She had lived here for quite a while. She picked me up at the airport, took me up to a senior Suns game, and I said, I think I can play for these guys. And the rest is history. I called my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, Janet, and I said, pack your stuff, we're leaving. I had worked for a family business back in New England, and my dad and I were starting to butt heads, and I loved him to death. We were best friends, and he said, go for it. So we came out here, and the rest is kind of history. Played for the Senior Suns for a few years, had a really good time. My whole life in the Sun Valley area has been based around hockey. I had a wonky job at one time. I went into the locker room and I said, hey, one of you guys hire me, I'm sick of my job. And this guy by the name of Dave Hennessy hired me, and I was with him for, it turns out, 18 and a half years. I've been here for 22 or 23 years. So that's how I got here.
Yeah. So you knew it was kind of home from the jump.
What was that?
You knew it was home from the very start.
Yeah, we were, my girlfriend and I at the time we had lived in Winter Park, Colorado for a year, and we just couldn't make ends meet. And my dad said, get back here, I'm selling the place. So I went back, and it just wasn't the place for me. We moved out here to get rid of all the traffic and the pushiness and the things like that. But now we have the traffic and some of the pushiness, but it's all good. We love it here.
Yeah.
We got married and have two awesome kids. I have an older son, Tyler, that's a junior at the University of Utah. And my youngest is Cooper. He's a junior at the community school, and my wife is the head of the lower school of community school. But I've never looked back and said, boy, I need to get out of here. We adore this place. It's a true community. I've seen the highest of highs in this valley and the lowest of lows. And by definition, or my definition, community doesn't mean when everything's going right. It's when things are not going well.
Who shows up?
Who shows up, yeah. A couple years ago, we had this massive fire, and we got evacuated at 4 a.m. in the morning. And by 4:15, I had 6 phone calls from people that I'd known, a lot of them Suns players, a lot of them hockey members, a lot of them parents of hockey children. Hey, we're not in town, but the key's under the mat.
Yeah.
Or we had a massive flood, and we live in a flood zone, and we didn't have power, and 40 people show up and trucks with pallets of sandbags, and it just brings you to tears. You can preach community all you want, like many other cities do, but we are a true community, and I would even go one step further. I mean, hockey in general, like I said, has dictated my whole life here.
Yeah.
It's a true family. I've coached everywhere from minis, which are like 5-year-old kids, to midgets, which are high school. And it's been an incredible journey. I've seen kids advance so amazingly with like not only hockey but just well-rounded kids. The kids here are they're like every other kid in everywhere else, but they seem to get it a little sooner. Like we want to raise, we're not trying to cure cancer. We're trying to raise good human beings, and the hockey environment has dictated that.
Yeah.
And I'm super proud and privileged to be involved.
So touch on that, because you've been the director now how long?
Not very long.
It's August 28th. You've been the
I-
director since
I started on May 1st.
May 1st.
Yeah.
How's that experience been so far? And what drove you to because you've been a part of the hockey world for so long, you've coached your kids. When the opportunity showed up to become the director of the program, what made you want to say yes to that?
We had 2 years ago they approached me, and we had a really, really tough year. We had a loss in the hockey community. One of the players had passed away, and it was absolutely the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. So they approached me, the board members, a couple of them approached me, and I said, no way. I needed to take a year off, which really wasn't a year off. I coached I helped out with the U14 girls, and
Which was a great experience.
it was awesome. It was so incredible.
Our daughter was on there. Loved the Wednesdays with Frank, or Thursdays with Frank, I think it was.
Yeah, it was, you hit a point in your life and you're like, what, sometimes coaches second guess themselves, like, what am I doing? Am I impacting? Am I making a difference? And that saying, you can't see the forest through the trees.
Mm-hmm.
I was almost at that point. And I got asked by a friend of mine, Andy, who was the head coach, to coach the girls, and it was eye-opening. It was a whole new beginning, and it was absolutely incredible. So then I was a pro. Actually, I started thinking about it. We had an executive director that just didn't work out, and so I approached. I made a few phone calls, called every people that I knew to see if they thought I could do the job, and everybody seemed to believe that I could do it. The best part of the reason they hired me was, I know the program, I know the community, I know the kids, I know a lot of the parents. The worst part about me, the worst reason they hired me, like the worst side of that is I know the kids, I know the community, I know the, I have I adore these kids, and not in a weird way.
It's good that that's cleared up.
Yeah. Like I said, I've been part of the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in the community / Sun Valley Youth Hockey program, and it's been a fantastic experience. So our program is, we're in Idaho. We're not back on the East Coast or Colorado or now Texas. We only have so many kids. And for years it was, okay, if you lose a kid, you don't get one back. The program, I think this year has, I think we're gonna be in like 280 something kids. So, we had years where we didn't have enough for a team, or enough to travel, or enough in, I like to say it as, we're a ski town with a hockey problem.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And the hockey world, as big as it may be, is a very small place. You can go anywhere in the country and basically run into someone that you knew at one time or another. It's incredible. And when things are in a bad place, those are those people that reach out to you. And it's, I've been in tears many a times over the last few years over the loss of our player. But the resilience in these kids are the reason that you keep coming back.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on it, right? Because yours is similar to mine. You're from the East Coast. You went to Lake Forest.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. I grew up in Highland Park, right next door to Lake Forest. But I mean, it was my first experience here was through hockey. That was the door opening to everything. I didn't come here to play hockey, but wound up playing hockey, and that was the first 60 to 100 people I met were all hockey players, and that was the community, and some of those relationships are still some of the deepest relationships.
Yeah, I mean, you and I mean, I've been here a little longer than you. I've been playing with the same group of people, or even not the same group of people,
Yeah.
for 20-something years.
Well, we used to play together, and then
Yeah.
I guess you got a little old or
I
something.
got old. I lose a lot of steps these days. But yeah, like I said, we just want, as a group, hockey's the easiest part of the program. It's all the other little cobwebs you have to go through, and I'm learning. I can honestly say I was excited and petrified at the same time. But we're moving forward, and walk into this rink and look up to your left. There's a bunch, and for those of you who have never walked into Campion Ice Rink, we have a lot of banners that we've had great success over the years. A couple years ago, Chris Benson, who was the head coach, brought a team that he had coached all the way through the fives and up, 5 years old, all the way to high school. They won a national hockey tournament, and that says a lot about our program.
Yeah.
Because we're not a it's hard for some parents and kids to take this, but we're not an NHL farm team. We're just not. I'm sorry to say that. For every 1,000 players that try out for the NHL, 2 players make it. But last year, at one time or another, we had 9 former Sun Valley Youth hockey players on our senior sons team.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Because our senior sons team they are a really good team. They have kids from all over that have played everywhere. And just for our little town to have 9 kids at one time or another to play on that team it speaks volumes.
Yeah. Well, as somebody who grew up playing youth hockey, both of us did that. I think some of our fondest memories are playing with our buddies growing up. And I preach this to the kids when I coach. It's like, you won't remember, wins and losses when you're
Absolutely.
10 or 12 years old.
Absolutely.
Right. As you get older, certainly, those wins and losses start to really make more sense, or you want to tally them a little bit more. But I mean, I've got some of my best memories, when I'm tucking my son into bed. He's like, tell me a hockey story. He's like, and I'll dig in. Okay, when I was 10, summer camp, what did Johnny Murphy do? Like, he always did something crazy, and I'll pull a story out. But that's that community I think you talked about. Like, the overall valley has that community still. The hockey culture has that community. And so when you think of like the vision for this program, 3 to 5 years out, because I appreciate your view of like, let's make great players, but let's make better people. What's the vision you see kind of over the next 3 to 5 years for the youth hockey program here?
I think that's a loaded question. I think there's a lot of answers to that. Me as a coach, my only goal over the years was to give these kids the tools so when they're my age, they're still embraced in the game and still playing. That's basically my only goal. But moving forward, where do I see this program in 4 or 5 years? I'd like to get the kids up and running and actually stay here. I think we have that ability. In other words, we have some kids that are super talented, and if I can't offer what they're looking for, I shouldn't say this as an executive director, I want you to follow that passion. If I can't supply that to you, you might need to go somewhere else. And that is a terrible thing to say as an executive director. I, as a director, want all the kids to be here and stay here and thrive and be, and to form these alliances with their teammates, because they succeed a lot more often when they're a congealed team, instead of, oh, I'm going here and here and here, but I'll come back for this year. You don't build good teams like that. Positivity. I've never been part of a successful team ever that wasn't positive. And I hate to say it, like, everybody has their ebbs and flows. We have a really incredible program where everybody gets to play. We have a scholarship foundation. If you can't afford it, we're going to help you out. I would just like to see the kids who are graduating now and then they go to college come back and coach years from now.
Yeah.
Like I said, my only goal is to give them the tools, and they're playing, to have such a passion over this game that they're playing with my age. And I'll be dead, no big deal. But that's my idea of moving a program forward.
Yeah. I think that's a good mark. I mean, you and I are both, coaches and dads, and we're still playing hockey. And I think if the program can, I've got a 12-year-old, you've got a junior in high school. If these kids wake up 20 years from now and are able to make Sun Valley the place that we've called home, and come back and coach their kids and play hockey, and that'd be a pretty cool legacy to be able to leave behind.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't know if I answered your question 100%. I think the only way we can move forward is to get these young kids that aren't involved, and that's a big step. Hockey can be pretty pricey.
When it's got a big barrier to your insurance, like I might suck at soccer, but I can run. But you put skates on, and there's.
Yeah, I don't think the answer is to have a 14-year-old kid start in hockey. I mean, we do it.
It happens
every year. It happens.
Yep.
But I want these kids.
Their buddies play. They see them having a ton of fun, and
I want these kids to get out of their comfort zone at 5 years old.
I cried a lot the first time I skated.
Yeah, and coaching is crucial. I remember being a little peanut, and if one of the coaches weren't on the ice with me, I would not want to go out.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is okay. These coaches, they have to be psychiatrists, psychologists, friends, mentors, leaders, role models. They're a pretty incredible group. It's a grind as a coach. You've done it. I've done it. There's days where you're like, what am I doing out here? There's days that, and you're looking for that smile, and it doesn't matter the age. You could have a 5-year-old kid that stops finally on his left foot inside edge, and you get that same smile from those kids that just won a national tournament in high school. It's the same look. It's the look of succeeding. It's the look of accomplishment. That's why I think you and I have done it for so many years. Just for that one smirk, that a kid, that one tap on the shoulder, that one instance where, hey coach, did you see that? I did it.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing accomplishment no matter what you're doing. It could be your first pass, it could be your first goal, it could be your first, like I said, stop on your outside edge. But that's why I think we do it. That's why I'm involved. It's funny, to be a true community, it takes a lot. Like, you have to buy in. And if everybody buys in, which is pretty tough, you as a whole are better people. Yeah, we have some really super talented players, really good players. But I'm not looking at the players' accomplishments. I'm looking at them as humans. And I already touched on this. Like, I knew kids, you used to have the expression, oh, that kid should be in jail. I had kids that should be in prison, like literally at 6 years old. And I know I shouldn't say that. You'll probably edit this out.
This is going. We're putting it all out there. We're putting the whole thing out. There's no edit.
But those kids coming up through the years have turned into just good kids.
Yeah.
And kids are going to make mistakes. Parents are going to make mistakes. Referees are going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. It's how you deal with those mistakes, right? If you deal with them head on, you're a better person for it. If you shelter it and say, that wasn't my kid, or blah, 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 or I didn't do that, it's just, it's a way that you're not going to get through life in a positive way.
Yeah.
So what else? What else you got for me?
What do you think the biggest challenge is right now for the program?
Biggest challenge for the program. Okay. The only ones that should be upset at us right now are the U14 girls
Okay.
and the U12 girls. Because I don't have enough players to staff a full girls team. We have 5 U14s and we have 11 U12s. Out of those 11 U12 girls, 5 of them want to play co-ed. That's the only problem I see right now.
That's not unique to Sun Valley though. That's that.
No, not at all.
But we do. I mean, I've got a daughter, so this is you're speaking to me here as her dad. But I know you guys are putting in the work to make it work. You're creating opportunities.
Yes.
You guys have been creative as far as going out to other teams and saying, hey, can we put together can we cobble together a team from Teton and
Sure.
Sun Valley and
And
to get a couple tournaments in? So you guys, I think,
there are opportunities, and we are. Yeah, I have a list. We have a woman that is the girls coordinator, Kaylee, and she's worked very hard on finding other opportunities. The other problem is, and hopefully the parents don't take this the wrong way, the parents can't dictate the program. Am I making sense? I understand they want the best what's for their kid. They want the best what's for the program. I have to look at it as the whole. Like, how do I put this? There's too many parents to run the show. If we have 280 kids, that's close to 600 parents, or whatever, over whatever. I'm really good at math.
you're a hockey player.
And then so there's just too many. Like these little tweaks that are requested. You're not going to make, and this is my hardest thing. Like they're like, "What are your goals?" I'm like, "I want to make everybody happy." That is impossible.
That's a hell of a goal.
I mean, yeah. Well, so I shoot high and end up low.
A big bar.
But we got to have faith in these coaches. They do an incredible job. I don't need a novel every single Monday after a weekend tournament from the same people. I don't need it. If you want to be positive, great. But talking to a lot of these coaches over the years, the reason, if we had the same amount of coaches we started with, we'd have too many coaches. And the reason a lot of these coaches leave is things just get a little wonky. Like, who's running the show? Am I the head of this?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to show transparency to these coaches. Some coaches want advice, and of course we're going to give them directions to go. There's other guys that have been doing it for 20 years that just say, get out of my way. And they're right in doing so. I understand that your kids are first and foremost, but we have to look at it as an entire program and let these coaches coach and let these kids just, the world has changed, and not necessarily for the better. I want the ice to be a happy spot. In other words, I don't want a kid to come out, he's having problems with his girlfriend. Yeah, I want to know that, but I want these kids to be able to just shut off their brain and actually bring fun back to the game of hockey. I want these kids to experience winning. I want these kids to experience losing. It builds character.
It does.
We'll have a team, and it's really hard out here. Like, we'll play in a tournament and we'll beat a team 10-0. That is no experience. I'd rather lose 3-2.
Yeah.
And then the next game we'll get beat 10-0. So the levels are really difficult out here. Is it all about winning? It really has nothing to do with winning. I mean, like you said, you touched earlier, I cannot tell you how many games I've won and lost in my career. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I can tell you about the joke we told at the dinner table with the team and the Coke coming out of the kid's nose, or,
the stories you get to tell aren't the wins and losses.
Yeah,
they're all the things that are around the game.
Yeah, and we were fortunate enough, and this has gone away, and it's tragic. You remember the locker rooms.
Yep.
And we've taken that fun away with the invention of the cell phone. Cell phones are not allowed in there, but now we have to have monitors. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying we were very blessed with when we grew up.
It was a little more simple.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
What else you got?
How do those that aren't involved with the program, that might want to be involved with the program, how do they plug in? What can...
A lot of it's word of mouth. We have thought about putting like ads in the papers or having someone go up and speak at the schools. I think we usually do we used to do it, I'm not sure. If we still do it, I should probably find out before I make this statement. We used to do like, come try hockey, your friends are doing it.
Yep.
We'll give you a free week.
Yep. I believe the program still runs a trial period like that.
Yeah, I believe so too. And it's, I was talking to a guy yesterday who was involved in the ski organization, Sun Valley Ski, what is it?
SVSEF,
yeah.
Sun Valley Ski
One of
Education Foundation.
One of Scotty McGrew's guys. And, he was asking me some questions and we were on the same page. And I go, the difference between, other than Salmon, Idaho, the difference between us and skiing is the temperatures usually, and the weather's usually about the same. Getting rid of the travel's brutal. But the rinks are always about the same temperature. But other than Salmon is my favorite place to travel. It's an outdoor rink.
Yep.
But I've experienced rain, I've experienced too warm, and I've experienced 23 below. And those are the magical moments, right? The kids are little.
Yep.
They get off the ice. You send them you have a parent on one end of the locker room, a parent on the other end. And as the kids come off in 23 below, you send them in the locker room and say, send them back in 2 minutes. And there's another group there as well. So it's every 1 minute. And that's what you remember.
Yeah. They're nothing better than the 7 or 8 a.m. game in Salmon.
No.
That's my favorite game.
Well, it's always like, okay, you got the 7 or 8 a.m. game, and then you have the 9:30 game at night.
Yes,
like,
you get one of those too. But I love the sunrise on the rink. That's a great experience.
One of my best pictures is of my son Cooper. He was probably a squirt, and he was playing goalie. And you see the mountains in the background, and it's just a magical place. It was funny during COVID, we had obviously the lockdown, and I always call Salmon the Wild Wild West, and like I said, it's one of my favorite places. I love the restaurants there, and so we went to like Subway, and all our kids had to have masks on, as well as the coaches. And we went into a Subway, and there was this little kid, and he goes, puts his hands up. I'm like, what's the matter, buddy? He goes, I thought you were a bandit, because we had the mask on. But yeah, it's the hockey world is it's an incredible place to be. I've coached a couple of spring leagues, and I only coach them for the camaraderie of the transplants we get. Like last spring, we had a kid from Salmon, and a couple from IF, and a couple from McCall, and a couple from Boise. And it's funny because the kids walk into the locker room and they're like, oh, that's so-and-so, we hate him. And by the end of the second practice, they're all buddies. And now when we go anywhere in Idaho or, whatever teams we've coached or the kids have played with, they're buddies. And sometimes they have to remember that, like, yes, you guys can be friends and buddies, but when it's time to compete, you need to compete on the ice. A lot of the kids don't get that yet, and but it's a really cool thing.
Yeah. Well, Frank, I appreciate you sitting down with me,
I appreciate you having me.
having a conversation about all this, and we're 30 days out from
Tea time.
yeah, it's there.
All right.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right. Bye.